Believe it or not, the next economic shock has already started, and most people have no idea how deep it actually goes. I'm talking about the tariffs introduced on April 9th, 2025, and the chain reaction they've already set in motion across the global economy. We have a full series on Patreon about how to protect your assets and safeguard what you've built. But for now, let's get back to the matter at hand. Because here's the thing, even if politicians keep telling you tariffs are simple, they're not. And the real consequences haven't fully hit the average person yet. So today, I'm going to break down exactly how these tariffs work, who actually pays for them, and the things you need to understand before this storm reaches your wallet. If you watch one video today, make it this one. How tariffs actually work. Let's start with the basics, because most people get this wrong. A tariff is a tax. That's it. When a product crosses a border, the importing country charges a fee. And here's the part politicians don't want you to hear. That fee isn't paid by the foreign country. It's paid by the importer, who passes it down the chain until it lands on your receipt. But it gets worse, because tariffs don't just hit finished products, they hit components too. Imagine a smartphone assembled in the United States. Sounds American, right? Except 30, 40, sometimes 50% of the components inside that phone come from abroad. Chips from Taiwan, screens from South Korea, rare earths from China. Every single one of those parts gets taxed before it's even bolted into the device. So that made in America smartphone, it's quietly become 15 to 25% more expensive to build before a single worker touches it. The WTO and why this is a step backwards. This is exactly what the World Trade Organization was designed to prevent. For decades, countries sat down in negotiating rounds, Uruguay, Doha, and others, to systematically reduce tariffs. Why? Because slapping a tariff on Canada, a country that exchanges over $2 billion in goods with the US every single day, makes no economic sense. These rounds took 20, sometimes 30 years to negotiate. And the tariffs introduced on April 9th essentially undo decades of that work in a single afternoon. We are not moving forward. We are moving 20 to 30 years backwards. The negative impacts. Now let's talk about the data, because the studies are already coming in and they are not pretty. Manufacturing sectors that depend on imported inputs, automotive, electronics, construction, are seeing margin compression of 8 to 15%. And the bankruptcy numbers are where it gets really sobering. According to S&P Global Market Intelligence, US corporate bankruptcy filings hit their highest level in over a decade in the months following the April 9th tariffs, with more than 700 large filings recorded in 2025 alone. Epic bankruptcy data shows commercial. Chapter 11 filings jumped over 20% year over year in tariff-exposed sectors. The Yale Budget Lab estimates the average US household is losing roughly $2,400 in annual purchasing power, while the Peterson Institute for International Economics Analysis projects a GDP drag of nearly 1 percentage point. Even iconic names, Joann Fabrics, Forever 21, Rite Aid have either liquidated or filed for protection, with executives explicitly citing tariff-driven cost pressure as a contributing factor. Supplier defaults are rising, capital expenditure is being frozen, hiring is slowing, and consumer prices on affected categories are up between 4 and 12% depending on the product. The negatives stack up fast. Higher input costs, broken supply chains, retaliatory measures, reduced export competitiveness, lower business investment, slower job growth, and a measurable hit to GDP. Are there any positives? To be fair, there are some upsides, at least on paper. Certain protected domestic industries get short-term breathing room. Specific manufacturing jobs may reshore. Government tariff revenue increases. But economists across the political spectrum agree these benefits are narrow, concentrated in a handful of sectors, and almost always outweighed by the broader cost passed on to consumers and exporters. The boomerang effect. And here's the part nobody is talking about loudly enough. When you put tariffs on the entire world puts tariffs back on you. The result? Roughly 100% of US exports are now subject to tariffs somewhere, with very few exceptions. Compare that to the European Union. The EU sends about 20% of its exports to the United States, Yes, that 20% now faces tariffs, but the other 80% going to China, India, Canada, South America, the UK, remains largely untouched. So while Europe absorbs a hit on 1/5 of its trade, American exporters are getting squeezed on virtually all of theirs. That's not a winning trade position. That's an isolation tax. What you can do. So, what does this mean for you? Higher prices on imported goods, pressure on jobs in export-dependent sectors, weaker purchasing power, and a lot more economic uncertainty over the next 12 to 18 months. Don't make big financial commitments assuming things will get cheaper. Build a cash buffer, diversify your income, and think carefully about where your savings are concentrated. If this topic resonates with you, we've launched an educational series on Patreon with one goal: helping you protect what you've built so far. Diversification, currencies, real assets, practical strategies. The link is in the description. Subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who needs it, and I'll see you in the next episode.